The earth has a weight to it, a heavy, comforting stillness that settles over everything when the world goes quiet. As you find your most comfortable position tonight, let that same stillness settle over you. Adjust your pillow. Let the blankets hold you. We are going to travel to a place where the air is always cool and the sounds of the surface world cannot reach. In the heart of Turkey, across the vast and ancient Anatolian plains, the landscape looks peaceful. Rolling hills, dusty paths, and the occasional silhouette of a distant mountain. But beneath the feet of those who walk there lies a mystery that remained hidden for centuries. It is a city of shadows and stone, a subterranean marvel known as Derinkuyu. Imagine a world built in reverse. While most cities reach for the clouds, Derinkuyu reaches for the silence of the deep. It is a multi-level labyrinth, hand-carved into the volcanic rock, extending 18 stories down into the crust of the earth. At its deepest point, it reaches 85 meters below the surface. That is nearly 300 feet of solid, protective stone between the inhabitants and the sky. As we begin our journey tonight, I want you to feel the temperature begin to drop, just slightly. Move away from the heat of the day and into the steady, unchanging cool of the rock. There is no wind here, no traffic, no distant hum of machinery, just the ancient, dusty breath of the earth. The rock here is unique, a soft, volcanic tuff that allowed ancient hands to shape rooms, hallways, and staircases with nothing more than simple tools. It is a place of incredible endurance, a testament to what humans can achieve when they seek the safety of the ground. We are stepping into that safety now. We are leaving the bright, busy world behind and entering a space that has been waiting in the dark for thousands of years. The weight of the earth above isn't heavy in a way that presses down. Instead, think of it as a thick, insulating blanket. It keeps the world out. It keeps the peace in. As we descend level by level, feel your own thoughts becoming quieter, matching the rhythm of the stone. The deeper we go, the further away the worries of the day become. There is only the path forward, the gentle curve of the tunnels, and the infinite, restful dark of the deep earth. We are going down into the cool, silent rock, where time doesn't move quite the same way it does on the surface. Everything here is still. Everything here is at rest. Before we go any deeper into the cool, dark corridors of the earth, I want to invite you to join our small community of night travelers. If these stories help you find the rest you've been looking for, perhaps you could subscribe to stay with us for more quiet nights. It is a simple, gentle way to ensure you always have a place to return to when the world feels a bit too loud. And if you find yourself feeling a little more relaxed already, a soft tap on the like button is a wonderful way to support these peaceful journeys. It helps our quiet corner of the world grow, one sleepy listener at a time. But for now, there is no need to move. Just let your eyes grow heavy and listen. Take a moment now to really settle into your bed. If you're holding any tension in your jaw, let it go. If your shoulders have crept up towards your ears, imagine them melting down into the mattress. Take a very slow, deep breath in, feeling the cool air fill your lungs. Hold it for just a heartbeat, and then let it out even more slowly, releasing the last of the day's energy. You are here. You are still. You are safe. It is strange to think how close we often are to greatness without ever knowing it. For hundreds of years, the people of the Anatolian plateau lived their lives, farmed their land, and built their houses, never realizing what lay just a few feet beneath their boots. The silence of Derinkuyu was absolute, undisturbed for centuries until one ordinary day in 1963. In a house much like any other in the region, a man was working on his home. He was renovating his basement, perhaps looking to create a bit more space for his family or his belongings. He swung a tool against a wall, expecting the solid, dull thud of earth and stone. But when the wall gave way, it didn't reveal more dirt. It revealed a void. He watched as the dust swirled in the dim light of his cellar, settling on a floor that hadn't been walked on in generations. Beyond the hole in his wall lay a hidden room, carved perfectly out of the rock. And beyond that room was a tunnel, narrow and inviting, leading down into the darkness. He had no way of knowing in that moment that he had just stumbled upon the largest excavated underground city in the world. He had pulled back the curtain on a secret that had been kept for nearly 1,000 years. As he stepped through that gap in his own basement wall, he wasn't just entering a new room. He was stepping into a different era. The modern world, with its noise and its clocks, began to fade away the moment that wall crumbled. In its place was a structure so vast it could house 20,000 souls. It was a city that didn't need the sun, a place where time was measured not by the movement of the stars but by the steady rhythm of the earth itself. As we move from that simple basement discovery deeper into the heart of the rock, we begin to leave the 20th century behind. We are traveling back, past the time of the Ottoman Empire, past the Byzantine Wars, into a history written in the very grain of the stone. We are following that man's gaze into the tunnel, feeling the air grow still and the weight of the world above become a source of comfort and protection. The journey from the surface to the depths is starting now, and the path is waiting for us. To understand how such a thing was even possible, we must first look at the land itself, the strange and beautiful skin of the earth that made this hidden world possible. Before we descend further into the tunnels, let us pause for a moment on the surface, beneath the wide, pale sky of central Turkey. The region of Cappadocia feels like a dream even before you step underground. It is a place where the earth itself seems to have been sculpted by a giant's hand into strange tapering towers and cones known as fairy chimneys. These stone spires rise up from the valley floors in shades of dusty rose, cream, and ochre, standing like silent sentinels over a land that has seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. In the golden hour of the afternoon, the light catches the ridges of these formations, creating a landscape that looks more like the surface of a distant moon than a part of our own world. This surreal landscape was born from fire and time. Millions of years ago, during the Tertiary period, this entire region was a theater of immense volcanic activity. Great ancient eruptions from volcanoes like Mount Erciyes and Mount Hassan blanketed the plateau in thick, heavy layers of ash and lava. Over the eons, this ash compressed and solidified into a unique type of rock called volcanic tuff. It is a porous, lightweight stone born in the heat of the Earth's interior, yet surprisingly soft and yielding once it is settled. The wind and the rain have spent thousands of years carving the softer layers into the whimsical shapes we see today. But the true secret of the land lies in what is hidden beneath that weathered crust. The geology of Cappadocia is the true architect of Derinkuyu. Without this specific type of stone, the underground city could never have existed. The tuff is soft enough that it can be carved with simple hand tools, a bronze chisel, a sharpened stone, or an iron pick moving through the rock with a rhythmic, satisfying scrape. Ancient builders discovered that they did not need to haul heavy blocks of marble or granite to construct their shelters. They simply had to remove the rock that was already there. It was a process of subtraction rather than addition. Every room, every hallway, and every spiraling staircase was born from the act of hollowing out the earth, carving a sanctuary directly into the heart of the plateau. Despite its softness, the tuff possesses a remarkable structural integrity. When carved into the proper shapes, such as rounded arches and thick, stout pillars, it can support the incredible weight of the layers above without crumbling. It is a stone that breathes, a stone that protects, and a stone that remembers. As the sun begins to dip lower behind the fairy chimneys, casting long purple shadows across the dusty ground, we turn our attention away from the vastness of the sky. The air here on the surface is dry and carries the scent of an ancient dust. But as we approach the unassuming entrance to the city, the atmosphere begins to change. We are standing now at the threshold, where the warm breeze of the Anatolian plateau meets the cool, still breath of the hidden world. We are ready to leave the light of the surface behind and step onto the first level of this subterranean masterpiece, moving from the world of fire and ash into the silent embrace of the stone. Stepping across the threshold, the first thing you notice is the air. It is not the stagnant, heavy air one might expect from an enclosed space, but something remarkably fresh and surprisingly cool. As you move just a few meters away from the entrance, the heat of the Anatolian sun seems to dissolve, replaced by a steady, gentle chill that remains unchanged regardless of the season outside. This is one of the great miracles of Derinkuyu's design. Deep within these stone corridors, the temperature holds a constant embrace between 13 and 15 degrees Celsius, or about 55 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit all year round. In the height of a blistering summer, when the plateau above is parched and shimmering with heat, these halls offer a refreshing sanctuary. In the depths of a freezing winter, when snow blankets the fairy chimneys, the city remains a temperate haven, protected by the immense thermal mass of the volcanic rock. It is as if the earth itself is breathing a slow, cool sigh that never ends. As your eyes begin to adjust to the soft, dim light, a sense of quiet wonder takes hold. The transition from the vast, open sky to this enclosed world is profound. It raises a quiet question in the mind, a paradox of human nature. Why would a community of thousands choose to leave the golden light of the sun, the sight of the stars, and the rustle of the wind through the grass to live in the silence of the dark? There is a certain weight to the silence here, a feeling of being cradled by the very bones of the earth. For the ancient inhabitants, the darkness was not something to be feared. It was a shield. The sun-drenched hills, as beautiful as they were, offered no protection from the marauding armies that frequently swept across the plains. Down here, in the cool gray twilight of the first level, they found a different kind of light, the light of safety. The shadows were not their enemy, they were their sanctuary. The first level of the city serves as a bridge between the world above and the world below. The ceilings here are relatively high, and the corridors are wider than those we will encounter as we go deeper. You can feel the history etched into the walls, where the marks of ancient chisels are still visible, caught in the soft light. This level was the pulse of daily life, a place where the transition from the surface was made easier by the familiarity of routine. The stone underfoot is smooth, worn down by the passage of countless feet over thousands of years. It is easy to imagine the soft murmur of voices echoing through these halls, not in panic, but in the steady rhythm of a community going about its day. As we linger here for a moment, letting our breathing slow to match the stillness of the stone, we begin to realize that this wasn't just a place to hide. It was a place to live, to breathe, and to wait. The air is still, the light is low, and the earth is steady. We are no longer visitors on the surface. We are now part of the mountain's long, slow memory. From here, the path leads further in, where the daily lives of these ancient people begin to reveal themselves in the very layout of the rooms around us, starting with the spaces closest to the world they left behind. As we wander deeper into these first shallow halls, the air carries a subtle shift in character. It is no longer just the cool, neutral scent of ancient stone. Here, near the threshold of the surface, there is a faint, lingering aroma of dried grass and the warm, musky sweetness of hay. This was the level of the animals. In the soft twilight of the upper chambers, the ancient inhabitants kept their livestock, their oxen, horses, and sheep. It was a practical necessity, born of a deep understanding of the environment they had carved for themselves. By keeping the stables on the highest levels, the people of Derinkuyu solved a complex problem of hygiene and comfort. The waste and the strong smells of the animals were kept close to the entrances and the primary ventilation shafts, preventing them from drifting down into the deeper living quarters where families slept and gathered. Imagine the scene as it once was, thousands of years ago. The stone walls here are notched with carved mangers and rings for tethering. In the quiet of the night, this level would have been filled with the low rhythmic sound of animals chewing their cud, or the soft, heavy thud of a horse shifting its weight on the dusty floor. There is something deeply grounding about the presence of these creatures. Even in this hidden world, the connection to the cycle of the farm and the field remained unbroken. The animals provided warmth, their bodies acting like small living heaters that helped take the edge off the subterranean chill. As you listen to the stillness, Shoma, let your own body find that same sense of heavy, peaceful rest. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs just as it once filled this vast stone labyrinth. Imagine the gentle, steady breathing of a resting ox nearby, a slow, calm pulse that matches the heartbeat of the earth. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears and feel the support of the surface beneath you, as solid and unchanging as the floors of these ancient stables. There is no rush here. The stone has waited for millennia, and it invites you to wait with it, to let go of the day's worries and simply exist in this quiet, protected space. The placement of the stables was the first sign of a highly organized society. It wasn't just a haphazard collection of caves, it was a masterfully planned city with a clear social order. By keeping the noise and the mess of the livestock at the top, the deeper levels were reserved for the more delicate aspects of human life, for education, for worship, and for the intimacy of family. As we move past the empty stalls and the worn stone troughs, the corridors begin to narrow and slope gently downward. We are leaving the busy, functional threshold of the city and descending into its heart, where the true scale of this hidden civilization begins to reveal itself. The shadows grow a little longer, the silence a little deeper, as we journey toward the places where thousands of souls once found a home within the very ribs of the world. As we move deeper, the true scale of Derinkuyu begins to unfold before us. It is difficult to grasp how much life once pulsed through these silent corridors, but as the path levels out, the sheer volume of the space becomes undeniable. Archaeologists estimate that at its peak, this subterranean marvel could accommodate as many as 20,000 people. To put that in perspective, that is the population of a medium-sized modern town, all living, sleeping, and working beneath the surface of the earth. This was not merely a temporary hideout or a series of cramped tunnels. It was a sprawling, multi-level metropolis, a logistical miracle carved into the very foundation of the world. Imagine the coordination required to sustain such a massive population in total seclusion. This city was a masterpiece of planning. There were vast storage rooms for grain, massive stone jars for oil and communal areas for preparing food. Each family had their own space, yet they were part of a giant, interconnected organism. The city didn't just house people, it protected their future, holding enough supplies to last for months at a time. As you settle further into your pillows, try to visualize the layout of this hidden world. It is a labyrinth of 18 distinct levels, though only a portion of them are accessible today. Each level was designed with a specific purpose, creating a vertical society where every square inch of stone was utilized. There is something deeply comforting about the thought of such a large community living in harmony with the earth, tucked away from the chaos of the surface. Think of the quiet murmur of 20,000 voices, softened by the thick volcanic walls. It wouldn't have been a roar, but a gentle collective hum, like the sound of a distant ocean or the rustle of wind through a deep forest. The stone here is porous. It absorbs the sharp edges of sound, leaving only a soft, rhythmic presence. You can almost feel the weight of that history now, a heavy, protective blanket of time that rests over everything here. The air is still and cool, and the world above, with its wind and its weather, feels very far away. Maintaining a city of this size required more than just storage. It required a profound understanding of human needs. There were areas for communal gatherings, places where people could share news or simply sit together in the soft glow of oil lamps. The logistics of waste, water, and food were handled with a sophistication that rivals modern urban planning. It was a sanctuary of stone, a place where 20,000 souls could vanish from the face of the earth and continue their lives in safety and peace. But as we descend further into this vast complex, a question naturally arises. How did so many people survive in the deep dark without the light of the sun or the fresh breezes of the plains? How did the city stay fresh and vibrant when it was sealed off from the world? To keep 20,000 people alive, the city had to do more than just provide walls. It had to breathe. The engineering required to move air through 18 levels of rock is perhaps the most impressive feat of all. A system of stone lungs that allowed life to flourish in the heart of the earth. As we turn a corner into a wider gallery, we begin to see the first signs of how these ancient builders mastered the very air itself. As you descend deeper into the heart of the rock, you might expect the air to become heavy or stagnant, but the opposite is true. There is a gentle, persistent freshness here, a light breeze that seems to come from the very stone itself. This is the result of a masterwork of ancient engineering, the city's ventilation system. To keep 20,000 people healthy and comfortable so far beneath the surface, the builders had to create a way for the earth to breathe. They did this by carving massive vertical shafts that pierce through the layers of volcanic tuff like giant subterranean chimneys. Some of these central ventilation shafts are staggering in their scale, reaching a depth of 55 meters. From the surface, they might look like nothing more than deep, dark wells, but inside the city, they are the source of life. These shafts were designed to utilize the natural laws of physics. Because the temperature deep underground remains constant while the temperature on the surface fluctuates, a natural pressure difference is created. This causes air to circulate constantly, pulling fresh, oxygen-rich air down from the plains and pushing warmer, used air back up toward the sky. It is a silent, passive system that has functioned perfectly for thousands of years without a single moving part. Branching out from these primary shafts is an even more intricate network of smaller channels. Archaeologists have discovered that there are over 15,000 small air ducts distributed throughout the city. These ducts are like tiny veins carrying the breath of the world into every corner of the complex. No matter how deep you go or how far you wander into the side tunnels, the air remains clear. Each room, from the largest communal kitchen to the smallest sleeping niche, was connected to this web of stone lungs. It is a testament to the foresight of the builders who understood that for a community to thrive in the dark, it must never be deprived of the sky's vitality. As you think about this constant, quiet movement of air, take a slow, deep breath of your own. Feel the air as it enters your body, cool and refreshing, and notice how it leaves you with a sense of release. Just as the city of Derinkuyu has its own rhythm of inhalation and exhalation, let your own breath become a steady, calming anchor. There is no effort required. Your body knows exactly how to breathe, just as the city was built to breathe on its own. With every exhale, imagine yourself sinking a little deeper into the softness of your bed, feeling as secure and grounded as the ancient stone walls. The engineering of the city didn't stop at the air, however. The builders were incredibly efficient, and they realized that these deep shafts could serve more than one purpose. In a world where survival depended on being invisible to those on the surface, every resource had to be carefully guarded. While the shafts provided the breath of life, they also held the key to another essential element of human survival. If you were to peer down into the darkest reaches of some of these 55-meter shafts, You would see more than just the floor of a lower level. You would see the faint, shimmering reflection of water, tucked away in the cool shadows where no sun could ever reach it. This connection between the air and the water was the next great triumph of the city's design. The water in Derinkuyu was as precious as the air, and the way it was managed is nothing short of brilliant. In the quiet of the lower levels, if you listen closely, you might imagine the faint rhythmic drip of water against stone. This was the city's lifeblood. Many of the ventilation shafts we spoke of doubled as wells, plunging down into the earth to reach the natural aquifers far below the surface. However, there is a very specific and clever detail in their design that speaks to the caution and the brilliance of the people who lived here. While some wells did reach the surface to provide water for those working in the fields during times of peace, many others were intentionally cut off from the outside world. These are often referred to as blind wells. They began deep within the city's living quarters and ended at the water table, with no opening ever reaching the top of the Anatolian plains. This was a deliberate and vital defensive strategy. In ancient times, a common and devastating tactic used by besieging armies was to poison a city's water supply, or to block the wells to force a surrender. By keeping their primary water sources hidden deep within the rock, accessible only from the inside, the people of Derinkuyu made themselves nearly immune to such threats. They could retreat into the earth, seal the world behind them, and know that they had an endless source of clean, cool water that no enemy could ever touch, see, or even find. It is a profound thought to be so deep under the ground, yet so perfectly provided for. The water remained at a constant refreshing temperature, filtered by layers of volcanic rock, tasting of the earth and the silence. As you settle deeper into your pillows, imagine that sense of absolute security. You are in a place where every need has been considered, where the walls are thick and the water is pure, and where the chaos of the outside world simply cannot reach you. The ingenuity of survival found here reflects a deep prioritization of safety that governed every aspect of the city's layout. The builders didn't just want to live underground. They wanted to create a space that was entirely impenetrable. They understood that to be truly safe, one must be able to control exactly who enters and who stays out. This philosophy of protection extended far beyond the hidden wells and the secret air ducts. It led to the creation of some of the most impressive physical barriers ever carved from stone, massive, silent mechanisms that could transform a simple hallway into an impassable wall in a matter of seconds, ensuring that the peace of the city remained undisturbed. To maintain this absolute security, the builders of Derinkuyu engineered one of the most iconic defensive features of the ancient world, the rolling stone doors. As you lie there, imagine walking down a narrow, dimly lit corridor where the air is still and the walls are a soft, dusty ochre. Suddenly, the passage is blocked by a massive, circular slab of rock, shaped much like a giant wheel or a thick millstone. These doors were not mere partitions. They were masterpieces of ancient security. Some of these stones stood nearly 5 feet tall and were incredibly thick, weighing as much as 500 kilograms, half a ton of solid, unyielding rock. Despite their immense weight, the doors were designed with a sophisticated understanding of physics. They rested in deep, precisely carved grooves in the floor and walls. Because of this careful balancing, a single person standing on the inside could push the stone, rolling it across the entrance to seal the passage completely. The genius of the design lay in its exclusivity. These doors could only be opened or closed from the inside. From the outer side, there were no handles, no hinges to exploit, and no way to gain leverage. The stone sat so snugly in its socket that it effectively became part of the mountain itself. Imagine the sound of such a door closing. It wouldn't be a sharp click or a metallic bang, but rather a low, deep rumble, a vibration you would feel in your chest more than you would hear with your ears. A heavy, grounding thud would signal that the stone had reached its seat, and then absolute silence. In a matter of minutes, an entire community of 20,000 people, along with their livestock and their stores of food, could simply vanish. To anyone searching on the surface or wandering into the upper entryways, the city would seem to have hit a dead end, a natural wall of rock where a bustling civilization had been moments before. There is a strange, quiet peace in the idea of a city that can tuck itself away so completely. It is the ultimate expression of the need for sanctuary. Yet, the presence of such heavy, formidable barriers brings us to a compelling mystery, a paradox that sits at the very heart of Derinkuyu's history. When we see the effort required to carve these half-ton doors and the precision needed to make them functional, we have to ask ourselves, what were these people so determined to stay safe from? What was happening in the world above that made the dark, silent depths of the earth feel like the only true home? This question leads us into the shifting sands of time, where we must look at the people who first put chisel to stone and the environment that shaped their extraordinary choices. This question, the why behind such a massive undertaking, is often called the paradox of Derinkuyu. It is a puzzle that historians and archaeologists have pieced together over decades, looking for clues in the tool marks on the walls and the layers of dust on the floors. To understand the purpose of this place, we have to look back through the long, hazy corridors of time to a period when the world above was a very different place. While the exact origins of the city are still debated, many scholars believe the story began with the Hittites. They were an ancient and powerful civilization that dominated this region thousands of years ago. It's possible they carved the very first, shallowest levels as storage or small shelters. However, the most significant expansion of the city, the transformation of these caves into a sprawling subterranean metropolis, is largely attributed to the Phrygians. During the 8th century BCE, these skilled architects and stone cutters began to hollow out the soft volcanic rock with incredible persistence. The paradox of their labor lies in two main theories. Was this city built to escape the elements or to escape other people? The truth likely lies in a beautiful, practical harmony of both. The Anatolian plateau is a land of harsh extremes. In the summer, the sun can be relentless, baking the plains until the grass turns to gold. In the winter, the winds are sharp and biting, bringing heavy blankets of snow that can isolate entire villages. For the ancient people living here, the earth offered a steady, woven embrace. Moving underground wasn't just about hiding. It was about comfort. Within these walls, the temperature never wavers. It is a natural sanctuary where the air is always bit, acting as a prehistoric form of climate control that kept the inhabitants warm in the winter and cool in the summer. But as we saw with those massive rolling stone doors, the need for safety from human conflict was just as pressing. Throughout history, this region was a crossroads for empires, a place where armies marched and borders shifted. When the horizon filled with the dust of approaching chariots or the glint of spears, the people of the plains didn't have to flee to distant mountains. They simply stepped into the earth and pulled the stone doors shut behind them. It is a comforting thought in its own way, the idea of a whole culture finding peace beneath the surface, protected by the very ground that fed them. As you settle deeper into your own space, imagine the silence that would fall over the city once the doors were sealed. The chaos of the world above would simply fade away, replaced by the steady, rhythmic pulse of a community living in harmony with the stone. Having secured their physical safety and their physical comfort, the people of Derinkuyu turned their attention to the needs of the spirit. Life underground was not merely a matter of waiting for danger to pass, it was a full, rich existence. To find the heart of that existence, we must descend even further, leaving the stables and the storage rooms behind. We are moving now into the deeper, quieter levels, where the stone was shaped not just for protection, but for reflection and grace. Here, in the stillness of the lower depths, the ancient builders carved spaces that offered a different kind of light. As we descend further into the earth, the sounds of the upper levels, the distant lowing of cattle and the rustle of grain begin to fade into a profound velvety silence. We are now between the third and fourth levels of this subterranean world, moving into the very heart of the mountain. Here, the ancient builders didn't just carve out rooms for survival, they carved out a space for the spirit. It is a place where the heavy weight of the world above is replaced by a different kind of weight, a quiet, protective pressure that feels like a thick, warm blanket. Imagine walking through a narrow, low-ceilinged corridor that suddenly opens up into a chamber shaped like a cross. This is the cruciform church of Derinkuyu. It is a remarkable feat of engineering and devotion, hewn directly from the solid volcanic rock. There are no windows here, no stained glass to catch the morning sun, yet the space feels remarkably expansive in its stillness. The walls are smooth to the touch, bearing the faint rhythmic marks of the chisels that shaped them centuries ago, each stroke a testament to patience and purpose. In this underground cathedral, the air feels different. It is cool and incredibly still, untouched by the winds that sweep across the Anatolian plains far above. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling that same stillness enter your lungs. As you exhale, let your shoulders drop and imagine the weight of your day lifting, replaced by the heavy, comforting peace of the stone. Just as this church offered a sanctuary for the people of the past, let your own room become a sanctuary for you now. There is no rush here. There is only the quiet, steady presence of the earth holding you in its ancient embrace. The existence of such a space tells us so much about the people who lived here. It reminds us that even in times of great uncertainty, when they were forced to hide from the world, they did not abandon the things that gave their lives meaning. They brought their faith with them into the dark, carving a place of beauty where they could gather, reflect, and find a sense of continuity. The church wasn't just a structure. It was a testament to the resilience of the human heart, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, we seek out the light of connection and belief. In the soft, dim glow of oil lamps, the shadows in this cross-shaped room would have danced gently against the pale rock, creating an atmosphere of deep contemplation. It is easy to imagine the muffled echoes of a chant or a whispered prayer, sounds that would have been absorbed by the porous nature of the tough stone, leaving only a lingering sense of calm. The silence here is not empty. It is full of the history of thousands of people who found comfort within these walls. But the spiritual life of Derinkuyu was only one part of their hidden culture. The community understood that for a society to truly thrive, even in total isolation, the mind needed as much nourishment as the soul. They knew that to survive for generations underground, they had to preserve more than just their bodies. They had to preserve their knowledge. And so, as we move away from the quiet sanctuary of the church, the corridors begin to widen. We are approaching a space that highlights the sophistication of this hidden civilization, a place where the silence was filled not with prayer, but with the soft murmur of learning. We are moving now toward a large vaulted room that served as the intellectual heart of the city. As we step through the threshold of this next chamber, the space around us seems to expand, reaching upward in a way that feels unexpected, so deep within the earth. We have entered a large, impressive hall defined by its beautiful barrel-vaulted ceiling. In the world of architecture, a barrel vault is a series of arches placed side by side, creating a rounded, tunnel-like roof that is both incredibly strong and aesthetically pleasing. To see such a feature carved directly out of the living rock is a marvel of ancient engineering. It gives the room a sense of dignity and importance, a feeling of being in a place of higher purpose. Archaeologists and historians believe this grand vaulted space served as a religious school. It is a profound thought to hold as you settle deeper into your pillows, even here, in a hidden city carved out of necessity and a need for protection. The inhabitants prioritized the mind and the spirit. Life in Derinkuyu was not merely a matter of enduring the dark until it was safe to return to the surface. It was about maintaining the fabric of their society. They understood that for a community to truly survive, it must pass its knowledge, its stories, and its values down to the next generation. Imagine the scene that might have unfolded here centuries ago. Instead of the heavy silence we feel now, there would have been the soft, rhythmic murmur of students reciting their lessons. You might hear the gentle footsteps of a teacher moving across the stone floor, their voice a steady, calming presence in the cool air. In this room, the terror of the world above was kept at bay, not just by stone doors, but by the persistence of human learning. Education was their bridge to the future, a way to ensure that even if they lived in the shadows for months at a time, their culture would remain bright and intact. Take a slow, deep breath, and as you exhale, imagine the weight of that ancient wisdom surrounding you. There is something deeply comforting about the idea of a school beneath the earth, a place of quiet focus and growth, protected by layers of solid rock. The walls here are thick and unchanging, shielding the students from the distractions and dangers of the outside world. It is a sanctuary for the mind, much like the sleep you're moving toward is a sanctuary for your body. As we linger in this hall of learning, you might begin to wonder how anyone could read or write in a city where the sun never reaches. The darkness in these depths is absolute, a thick and velvety blackness that would be overwhelming without a way to push it back. But as you look closely at the walls of this ancient school, and indeed throughout the corridors we have traveled, you start to notice small, deliberate details in the stone. These marks reveal the secret to how the people of Derinkuyu brought light into their subterranean world, turning the cold shadows into a warm, flickering home. Small, hollowed-out niches are carved at regular intervals into the rock, each one a tiny alcove designed to hold a flickering flame. These small indentations tell the story of the city's lifeblood, the constant, gentle glow that allowed life to flourish where the sun could not reach. As we move our hands along the cool, textured walls of the school and the corridors beyond, we feel those small, deliberate indentations. These niches, carved at eye level and tucked into the corners of every room, were the silent sentinels of the city. They are small, roughly the size of a cupped hand, and though they sit empty today, they once held the very thing that made life possible in this world of stone, light. In these alcoves sat small, simple lamps made of clay. To fuel them, the inhabitants of Derinkuyu relied on the resources of the Anatolian plains above. While we might imagine torches with roaring flames and thick black smoke, the reality was much more refined and peaceful. They primarily used linseed oil, pressed from the seeds of the flax plant. Flax was a common crop on the surface, its delicate blue flowers swaying in the breeze, unaware that its seeds would eventually descend into the earth to provide a golden glow for a hidden civilization. Linseed oil was a brilliant choice for an underground environment. It burned slowly and steadily, producing a dim, warm light that doesn't flicker violently. Perhaps most importantly, for a city with limited ventilation, it produces very little smoke compared to animal fats or wood. This allowed the air to remain clear and breathable, even when thousands of lamps were lit simultaneously across the 18 levels of the city. I want you to take a slow, deep breath now. As you exhale, try to visualize the flicker of just one of those lamps. Imagine a single, tiny flame nestled in its stone niche. The light it casts isn't harsh or bright. It is a soft amber hue like the color of honey or a setting sun. See how that light catches the pale, dusty surface of the volcanic tuff. The rock isn't dark like coal. It is a creamy, earthy tone that seems to drink in the light and then gently reflect it back into the room. Watch the shadow of the flame as it dances ever so slightly against the wall. It moves with a slow, rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat. There is no wind here to blow it out, only the quiet, steady flow of air from the ventilation shafts deep in the distance. In this soft, golden atmosphere, the terror of the outside world feels very far away. The light creates a sense of intimacy and warmth, turning a cold cave into a home. It is a light that doesn't demand your attention. It simply invites you to rest your eyes and feel the safety of the heavy earth around you. The presence of these lamps tells us so much about the daily rhythm of Derinkuyu. The light was a precious resource, used mindfully. It guided the hands of the weavers, the eyes of the teachers, and the steps of the families moving between levels. But light was also essential for the most fundamental requirement of survival, the preparation and preservation of food. As we follow the trail of these small stone niches, they lead us away from the quiet halls of learning and deeper into the heart of the city's infrastructure. The soft glow of the oil lamps would have illuminated the path to vast cavernous spaces designed for a singular purpose. Just as the inhabitants mastered the art of bringing light into the dark, they also mastered the art of the harvest, creating a subterranean pantry that could sustain thousands of people for months or even years at a time. We move now toward the areas where the scent of stone and oil begins to mix with the earthy, sweet aroma of stored grain and the sharp, rich tang of aging wine. As you move deeper into the heart of the city, the air remains remarkably fresh, yet it carries a new earthy depth. You're entering the vast granaries and storage chambers, the silent pantries that once held the lifeblood of this underground civilization. In these large, high-ceilinged rooms, the stone walls are carved with deep recesses and bins designed to hold staggering amounts of wheat, barley, and legumes. There is a profound sense of security here, a feeling of being well provided for, even in the depths of the earth. The secret to this incredible food security lies in the very nature of the rock itself. Because the city is buried so deep, it is shielded from the scorching heat of the Anatolian summer and the biting frost of the winter. This creates a natural constant temperature of about 13 to 15 degrees Celsius, or roughly 55 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. In the ancient world, this was a technological miracle. The city functioned as a massive natural refrigerator. In this cool, stable environment, grain could be kept dry and free from rot for months or even years. Wine, stored in large ceramic jars tucked into the shadows, would age slowly and perfectly, its flavor deepening in the stillness of the stone. I want you to imagine the stillness of these storage rooms. Picture the floor swept clean and the heavy rounded shapes of the storage vessels resting against the pale walls. There is no sound here, only the soft, distant hum of the city's ventilation. Take a slow, deep breath and feel that same cool, steady air filling your lungs. Just as the grain was kept safe and preserved in this quiet darkness, you are safe and held by the stillness of your own space. Let your body feel heavy, as solid and settled as the great stone jars resting on the floor. The inhabitants of Derinkuyu didn't just store food, they processed it here too. Archaeologists have found massive linseed oil presses and heavy stone wheels used for crushing grapes. This tells us that the city was designed for total self-sufficiency. During times of conflict, the people didn't need to risk emerging for supplies. They had everything they needed within these walls: the oil for their lamps, the wine for their tables, and the flour for their bread. They could close the great rolling stone doors and live in complete isolation, sustained by the bounty they had brought down from the surface. This level of preparation reveals a society that was deeply organized and remarkably resilient. Living underground for extended periods required more than just food. It required a way to share it. You couldn't simply have 20,000 individuals acting alone in such a confined space. To survive, the people of Derinkuyu had to move beyond mere survival and into a sophisticated form of social cooperation. The sheer scale of these granaries suggests that the management of resources was a communal effort, a shared responsibility that kept the heart of the city beating. As we leave the quiet, cool shadows of the granaries, we begin to see how this physical infrastructure shaped the way the people interacted with one another. The path leads us toward the areas where the raw ingredients were transformed into meals, the places where the individual families came together to form a single, unified community. We move now toward the communal spaces, where the scent of dry grain gives way to the lingering, ghostly aroma of wood smoke and shared hearths. Walking further into the heart of the city, the narrow corridors open into wider, soot-stained chambers. These were the communal kitchens. Unlike a modern home where every family has their own stove, Derinkuyu relied on shared hearths, some large enough to roast meat for dozens of people at once. This wasn't just about social bonding. It was a master class in survival engineering. In an underground city, smoke is a potential hazard, an enemy that must be carefully managed. By concentrating the cooking in specific areas with dedicated ventilation flues, the inhabitants could control the air quality for everyone. They were remarkably efficient with their resources, using the heat from a single large fire to warm the surrounding stone and provide light, all while preparing the day's sustenance. Imagine the warmth of these fires in the cool underground air. Picture the soft orange glow of the embers reflecting off the pale, porous walls. There would have been the gentle clatter of ceramic bowls, the soft murmur of voices, and the comforting aroma of baking bread rising through the stone vents. As you lie there now, let your mind drift to that sense of shared warmth. Feel the heavy, supportive weight of your blankets, much like the steady, protective weight of the earth that surrounded these ancient kitchens. Just as the people of Derinkuyu gathered around the hearth for comfort and nourishment, you are tucked away in your own sanctuary, safe and warm. Think about the sheer number of people living here, as many as 20,000 souls. In our modern world, we often find it difficult to maintain peace in a crowded apartment building or a busy city street. Yet, the very layout of Derinkuyu suggests a society that prioritized harmony and order. There were no private kitchens, which means meals were likely a collective experience. This shared life required a profound level of trust and cooperation. To live in the dark, in the silence of the earth, one had to rely entirely on the person in the next chamber. This interdependence likely acted as a natural check on conflict. When your very breath depends on the collective maintenance of a shared ventilation shaft and your water comes from a shared well, the impulse for harmony becomes a necessity for survival. The city wasn't just a place to hide. It was a living organism where every part had to work in concert with the others. This level of social organization is one of the most enduring mysteries of the site. How did they manage the waste, the noise, and the psychological weight of living away from the sun without internal strife? The answer likely lies in their shared purpose and the rhythmic, predictable nature of their daily routines. They lived by the light of oil lamps and the timing of their tasks. Even in the deep dark, there was a sense of place and a sense of belonging. The stone walls didn't just divide them, they held them together. As you breathe in and out, slowly and deeply, imagine that same sense of quiet belonging. You're part of a long history of humans seeking rest and safety. The world outside may be vast and complex, but here, in the stillness, everything is simple. Your only task is to let go and rest, just as the city itself rests now, silent and silvered by time. But for a city of 20,000 to function, information had to flow as freely as the air. In a world without electronics, a message from the lowest level might need to reach the surface in a matter of seconds. This led the builders to create a hidden network of communication that turned the very rock into a messenger. As we move away from the warmth of the kitchens and back into the quiet halls, we begin to notice small intentional details in the stone, features designed to carry the human voice through the heart of the mountain. Walking through these corridors, your eyes might catch a small, circular opening in the ceiling or the floor. They are easy to overlook, appearing as nothing more than natural irregularities in the rock, but they were entirely intentional. These were the communication pipes of Derinkuyu, a simple yet brilliant solution to the problem of distance and depth. In a city that sprawled 18 levels into the earth, moving from the bottom to the top was a journey of physical endurance. Climbing hundreds of narrow, steep stairs just to deliver a simple message would have been inefficient and exhausting. To solve this, the builders carved narrow shafts that connected the various floors vertically. These pipes allowed messages to travel quickly throughout the city without anyone having to leave their post or their home. A lookout near the surface could whisper a warning that would ripple down through the stone, reaching the lowest levels in a matter of seconds. A family gathering for a meal could call out to a neighbor several floors away. It was an acoustic network that turned the entire mountain into a living, breathing messenger. Take a slow, deep breath, and as you exhale, imagine the sound of those voices. The sound wouldn't have been sharp or jarring. Because the volcanic tuff is so porous, it acts as a natural acoustic dampener. It absorbs the harshness of a voice, leaving only the soft, low frequencies to travel through the pipe. To someone resting in a lower chamber, the voices from above would have sounded like a distant melodic murmur, a soft echo through the stone, almost like a lullaby. It was a constant, gentle reminder that even in the dark, you were never truly alone. There was always a voice nearby, a rhythmic hum of human life vibrating through the very walls that protected you. This sense of connection was more than just a convenience. It was a vital part of the city's defense and social fabric. As we sit in the stillness of the present, it is easy to forget that for long periods of its history, Derinkuyu was a place of high stakes and urgent necessity. This was especially true during the Byzantine era, a time when the city saw its greatest expansion and its most frequent use. Between the 7th and 11th centuries, the Anatolian plains were a landscape of constant flux and frequent conflict. For the people living above, the threat of invasion was a recurring shadow. And it was during this time that the underground city truly came into its own as a masterpiece of survival. The Byzantine era transformed Derinkuyu from a series of ancient shelters into a sophisticated, permanent refuge. It was during these centuries of regional instability that the city's most iconic features, its chapels, its schools, and its complex defensive gates, were refined and expanded. The fear of what lay on the horizon acted as a strange catalyst for human genius, pushing the inhabitants to create a world beneath the soil that was as organized and cultured as any city under the sun. As we look closer at this period, we begin to see how the terrified inhabitants turned their fear into a legacy of resilience, carving a sanctuary of peace out of the cold, hard reality of their time. The Byzantine era marks the moment when Derinkuyu reached the height of its complexity and its greatest population. During the long stretch of the Arab-Byzantine Wars, which lasted from the 7th to the 11th centuries, the Anatolian plains were a landscape of shifting borders and frequent movements of people. For those who lived in the shadow of these events, survival depended on the ability to disappear. It was during this time that the city truly became a primary refuge, a hidden kingdom where life could continue even when the world above felt uncertain. As you settle deeper into your blankets, imagine the steady, quiet work that took place during these centuries. The inhabitants weren't just digging holes to hide in, they were expanding a masterpiece of engineering. Most of the Christian artifacts, the intricate chapels, and the spiritual spaces we find in the city today date back to the 10th century CE. This was a time of relative prosperity and cultural growth within the Byzantine Empire, and that growth reflected itself in the stone below. They carved vaulted ceilings that mimicked the grandest cathedrals of the surface world, and they etched crosses into the walls to sanctify the silence. Even in the depths of the earth, they sought to surround themselves with beauty and meaning. Take a slow, quiet breath. Feel the coolness of the air in your mind, much like the air that would have circulated through these ancient halls. In the 10th century, the city was at its most vibrant. It wasn't a place of gloom, but a place of incredible organization. There were thousands of people living here, moving through the tunnels with the soft glow of oil lamps, their voices humming in a collective rhythm of domestic life. For centuries, this underground world served as a shield, a constant and reliable protector against the instability of the region. It is a fascinating thing to consider how the feeling of being terrified, of facing a world that felt unsafe, could lead to such a profound expression of human genius. We often think of fear as something that paralyzes us. But for the builders of Derinkuyu, fear was a motivator. It pushed them to think beyond the obvious, to solve problems that seemed impossible, and to create a sanctuary that was as functional as it was safe. Their fear didn't result in chaos. It resulted in a meticulously planned society where every ventilation shaft, every water well, and every stone door was a testament to their desire for peace. The terror of the ancient world became the blueprint for a legacy of resilience. They took the very earth beneath their feet and transformed it into a fortress of the mind and spirit. As we move deeper into the history of these tunnels, we begin to see that the architecture itself tells a story of protective love, a community coming together to ensure that their way of life, their children, and their history would remain untouched by the storms passing overhead. This sense of safety, carved from the living rock, allowed them to sleep soundly in the dark, much as you are preparing to do now, knowing that the walls around them were strong enough to hold back the weight of the world. Consider for a moment the psychological weight of the world above compared to the silence of the world below. In the ancient eras when Derinkuyu was most active, the surface of the Anatolian plains was a place of constant vigilance. The horizon was vast and open, and while that beauty is undeniable, it also meant that danger could be seen from miles away, approaching slowly like a gathering storm. For the people of that time, the other, the unknown traveler, or the marauding army, was a source of deep existential anxiety. But the moment they stepped down into the earth, that anxiety began to dissolve, replaced by the cool, solid certainty of the stone. There is a unique sense of safety that comes from being surrounded by the earth. It is a return to a more primal state of protection, much like a child feeling secure beneath a heavy blanket. To the inhabitants of Derinkuyu, the ground wasn't just dirt or rock. It was a mother, a shield, and a sanctuary. The psychology of the city was built on this shift from vulnerability to total enclosure. Below the surface, the rules of the world changed. The other lost their advantage of numbers and speed. The earth provided a literal and metaphorical weight that anchored the community, shielding them from the eyes of those who might wish them harm. This psychology of protection is etched into the very layout of the city's corridors. If you were to walk through these passages today, you would notice how remarkably narrow and low many of them are. In some places, you must stoop your shoulders and walk with a careful, deliberate pace. This was not a result of poor planning or a lack of ambition. It was a brilliant, calculated defense mechanism. By designing the tunnels to be intentionally narrow, the builders ensured that any invader who managed to breach the massive rolling stone doors would be forced to move in single file. Imagine the tactical shift this created. An army that relied on its size and its ability to charge was suddenly neutralized. In these tight, winding passages, they couldn't run, they couldn't swing a sword with ease, and they certainly couldn't see what was waiting for them around the next bend. The architecture itself became a silent guardian. A single defender positioned at a strategic corner or a slight incline could hold back an entire company of soldiers simply because the stone dictated the pace of the movement. The city took the fear of the other and transformed it into a masterpiece of defensive engineering. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the stillness that this kind of protection offers. It is a beautiful irony that a place born from the need to hide became such a profound expression of human resilience. We often view these tunnels through a lens of terror, imagining people huddled in the dark, trembling at the sounds from above. But as we look closer at the sophistication of their design, a different story emerges. Once those great stone doors were rolled into place and the lamps were lit, the inhabitants were likely more at peace than they ever were on the surface. They had their water, their food, their schools, and their places of worship. The terror was left behind in the wind and the dust of the plains, while below, life continued in a steady, quiet, and highly organized rhythm. This wasn't just a place to hide. It was a triumph of the human spirit over the uncertainties of history. It was a way of saying that even in a world that felt unsafe, a community could create a space of absolute stability. The terror of the ancient world became the catalyst for a legacy of brilliance, turning a simple cave into a functional, thriving society that could withstand the passage of centuries. But to build such a world, one needs more than just a plan. One needs the perfect material. The people of Cappadocia were blessed with a geological gift that made this entire feat of engineering possible. The very ground they walked upon was unlike almost anywhere else on Earth, a landscape shaped by ancient fire and the slow accumulation of volcanic ash. This brings us to the stone itself, the remarkable substance known as tuff, which holds the secret to how these thousands of rooms were carved with such precision and care. As we begin to look at the geology of the region, we see how the earth itself invited the people to come inside, offering a stone that was as soft as clay when first touched, but as strong as a fortress once it met the air. The landscape of Cappadocia is a testament to the power of the earth's inner fires. Millions of years ago, massive volcanic eruptions blanketed this region in thick layers of ash. Over time, this ash compressed and solidified into a rock known as tuff. It is a stone born of heat and pressure, yet it possesses a quality that seems almost miraculous to those who wished to shape it. Tuff is a relatively soft, porous rock. When it is first exposed by a shovel or a chisel, it has a consistency that feels almost like hardened clay. This meant that the ancient builders didn't need sophisticated machinery or steel of incredible strength to create their world. With simple tools of bronze or iron, they could slice through the earth, carving out rooms, archways, and staircases with a precision that is still visible today. But here's the truly fascinating part of the geology. While the stone is soft, while being worked, it undergoes a transformation. When the freshly carved surfaces of the tuff come into contact with the air, a process of oxidation and dehydration begins. The stone sleeve slowly hardens, becoming a durable, stable shield that can support the immense weight of the earth above it for thousands of years. It is as if the earth itself cooperated with the builders, offering a material that was easy to mold but became remarkably strong once the work was done. Take a moment to imagine that process. Picture the dim light of an oil lamp casting long, flickering shadows against a wall of pale, dusty stone. Think about the slow, steady rhythm of a craftsman's work, the soft, repetitive clink of a metal tool against the rock. There is no rush here. In the cool quiet of the underground, time moves differently. Every stroke of the chisel was a deliberate act of creation, a small step toward building a sanctuary. Feel the weight of your own body settling into your bed, much like the stone settled into its final, permanent shape. Just as the builders found peace in their steady, rhythmic labor, you can find peace in the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. The dust from the carving would have been fine and dry, smelling faintly of minerals and ancient earth. Because the tuff is so porous, it naturally absorbed the sounds of the work, keeping the environment hushed and focused. This geological gift wasn't just limited to the site of Derinkuyu. The entire region of Cappadocia is a vast plateau of this volcanic tuff, which explains why the area is so densely populated with these hidden wonders. While Derinkuyu is perhaps the most famous and deepest of these locations, it was by no means a solitary achievement. It was part of a much larger phenomenon, a shared human response to a unique environment. As we look across the Anatolian plains, we begin to realize that the surface of the earth was merely a shell. Beneath the hills, the valleys, and the strange rock formations known as fairy chimneys, an entire civilization was being carved out of the volcanic ash. Derinkuyu was just one node in a vast subterranean web, a hidden kingdom that stretched far beyond what any single person could see from the sunlit world above. As we think about this hidden kingdom, it's important to realize that Derinkuyu was not a lonely outpost. It was part of a vast, interconnected network that mirrored the world above, yet remained entirely secret. In the region of Cappadocia alone, archaeologists have identified over 200 of these underground cities and villages. Some are small, designed to hold only a few families for a short time, while others, like Derinkuyu, were massive urban centers capable of sustaining thousands of lives for months on end. Imagine for a moment that you are standing on the surface of the Anatolian plains centuries ago. The wind is soft, carrying the scent of dry grass and wild thyme. To your eyes, the landscape looks peaceful and perhaps even empty. But beneath the soles of your feet, just a few meters down, a parallel world is thriving. While you walk through the sunlight, an entire civilization is moving through the cool, dim corridors of the earth. They are cooking, teaching their children, and tending to their livestock, all in the silence that never reaches the surface. It is a thought that brings a strange sense of comfort. The idea that there is always more to the world than what we see at first glance, and that even in the most open spaces, there are deep, protected places where life continues undisturbed. These 200 cities were not just scattered randomly. They were part of a strategic and social landscape. Many of these sites were linked by a series of secret winding tunnels, some of them stretching for miles through the solid volcanic rock. This was not just a collection of caves, but a sophisticated web of infrastructure. If one city fell under threat, its people could move through the darkness to find safety in another. It was a landscape defined by cooperation and a shared commitment to survival, built by people who understood the earth as a mother, a protector, and a home. As you lie there, let your mind drift through these ancient pathways. Picture the map of this hidden world, a labyrinth of soft curves and sturdy pillars, all carved with a singular purpose, to provide peace and security. Feel the stillness of that underground world reflecting in your own body. Your room is your sanctuary, much like these cities were sanctuaries for those who built them. There is no need to hurry, no need to worry about the world outside. Like the people of the Anatolian plains, you are safe, tucked away from the noise and the wind, resting in a space that has been prepared for your comfort. Among all these connections, there is one passage that stands out for its sheer ambition and scale. It is a legendary link that connects Derinkuyu to its closest large neighbor, the underground city of Kemakli. This was not a mere crawl space or a hidden hatch, but a grand architectural feat, a tunnel that bridged the gap between two of the greatest subterranean hubs in human history. To understand the true power of this network, we must look closer at this specific path, a journey that leads us deeper into the heart of the stone and closer to the secrets of how these ancient people lived together in the dark. Imagine standing at the threshold of a tunnel that seems to have no end. This is the great passage connecting Derinkuyu to its neighbor, Kemakli. It stretches for 9 kilometers, nearly 5.5 miles, carved entirely by hand through the silent, heavy heart of the earth. This was more than just a simple walkway. It was a vital lifeline, a subterranean highway that allowed for the movement of people, goods, and information between the 2 largest underground hubs in the region. As you lie there, comfortably tucked into your bed, try to visualize what it would have been like to traverse this distance. The air remains a steady, cool temperature, but the journey would take hours of steady walking. There are no windows here, no landmarks of trees or hills to guide the way. Only the rhythmic sound of soft-soled shoes against the stone floor and the gentle, flickering glow of a small oil lamp held by a traveler. In some places, the tunnel might narrow, forcing you to walk in single file, while in others, it might open into small alcoves where one could rest for a moment before continuing into the deep, quiet dark. This tunnel served as a masterstroke of ancient strategy. If Derinkuyu were ever breached, the entire population had a secret exit, a way to vanish into the earth and reappear miles away in the safety of Kemakli. But it was also used for the more mundane aspects of life, the trade of grain, the sharing of news, and the strengthening of bonds between the 2 communities. It represents a level of social organization that is hard to wrap the mind around, a hidden world operating with the same complexity as any city on the surface. Think of the darkness in that tunnel not as something to fear, but as a thick, protective blanket. In the heart of the stone, 5 miles from the nearest exit, there is a silence so profound it feels like a physical presence. It is a place where time seems to slow down, where the only thing that matters is the steady rhythm of your own breath and the knowledge that the path ahead is solid and secure. It is a space designed for survival, built with a profound understanding of what it means to keep a community safe and healthy. The sheer scale of this passage reminds us that these people weren't just hiding, they were flourishing. They had created a network that allowed them to live as a unified civilization, even when the world above was in turmoil. The walls of the tunnel, though rough-hewn, were strong, bearing the weight of the entire Anatolian plateau above them. There is something deeply grounding about that thought, the idea of being surrounded by miles of solid, unmoving rock, protected from the elements and the chaos of the outside world. Maintaining a city of 20,000 people deep underground required more than just tunnels and air shafts. It required an incredible level of discipline and engineering, especially when it came to the basic needs of the human body. When you have so many people living in a confined space for weeks or even months at a time, hygiene becomes a matter of life and death. The builders of Derinkuyu were well aware of this, and as we move deeper into the layout of their home, we begin to see the ingenious ways they managed the challenges of waste and cleanliness in a world without sun or wind. They understood that to survive in the dark, they had to be meticulous, creating systems that were as advanced as they were necessary for the health of the community. Living deep within the earth brings with it a unique set of challenges that we, in our modern world of plumbing and open air, might rarely consider. For a population of 20,000 people to remain healthy and comfortable in an enclosed space for weeks or even months, the management of waste and hygiene had to be nothing short of masterful. The builders of Derinkuyu understood that the same stone that protected them from invaders could also trap the less pleasant aspects of human life if not managed with meticulous care. To walk through these corridors today is to witness a level of ancient sanitary engineering that is truly humbling in its sophistication and foresight. One of the most impressive features of the city's design is the presence of specialized drainage areas and sealed pits. Unlike many ancient surface cities, where waste might simply be discarded into the streets, the people of Derinkuyu created dedicated spaces for latrines, often located on the periphery of the living quarters or near the ventilation shafts, to ensure that the air remained as fresh as possible. These pits were carefully carved into the soft volcanic tuff and then sealed, a method that effectively contained odors and prevented the spread of bacteria through the narrow corridors. This wasn't merely a matter of convenience. It was a vital component of their survival strategy. In the confined environment of an underground city, an outbreak of illness could be catastrophic. By prioritizing hygiene with such precision, they ensured the long-term health and longevity of their hidden community. As you settle deeper into your pillows, imagine the quiet efficiency of such a system. There were no rushing pipes or mechanical hums, only the slow, steady work of gravity and the natural properties of the rock. The inhabitants utilized the natural slope of the floors to guide water toward specialized areas, showing a deep understanding of the geology they called home. This level of planning suggests a society that was highly organized, where every individual's well-being was tied to the cleanliness of the collective space. They managed the needs of thousands with a quiet, methodical grace, turning the challenges of the deep earth into a sustainable and dignified way of life. The air in these lower levels, despite the lack of direct sunlight, was kept remarkably clear and breathable. The constant temperature of the stone and the clever use of the ventilation shafts meant that the living quarters felt crisp and cool, a stark contrast to the dusty, sun-baked plains above. This cleanliness extended to every part of their daily routine, from the way they stored their grain in natural stone refrigerators to the way they protected their water supply from external contamination. It was a world of order, where the harsh realities of survival were softened by the ingenuity of the human mind. But it wasn't just the physical cleanliness that defined the experience of living in Derinkuyu. As the systems of the city worked silently in the background, a different kind of atmosphere began to take hold. Without the bustle of surface life, the whistling wind, the calls of birds, or the distant sounds of travelers, the underground world developed its own unique character. In the absence of external noise, the very nature of sound itself began to change, shaped by the porous, ancient walls that surrounded them. The city wasn't just a feat of engineering. It was a sanctuary of profound, heavy stillness, where the very stone seemed to listen. This unique auditory experience is a direct result of the geology that cradles the city. Unlike the hard, jagged surfaces of a typical limestone cavern, where every drop of water or whispered word might echo for eternity, the volcanic tuff of Derinkuyu possesses a much softer character. If you were to look at this rock under a microscope, you would see a labyrinth of tiny air-filled pores, remnants of the volcanic gases trapped in the ash millions of years ago. These microscopic voids act as a natural acoustic buffer, much like the specialized foam used in modern recording studios. Instead of reflecting sound waves back into the room, the walls of Derinkuyu gently absorb them, pulling the vibrations into the heart of the stone and holding them there. In a city designed to house up to 20,000 people, one might imagine a constant, overwhelming cacophony of voices, footsteps, and the lowing of livestock. Yet, because of the stone's porous nature, the atmosphere remained remarkably hushed. A conversation held in one chamber would not carry easily into the next. The sound of a hammer striking a chisel would be muffled, its sharp edges rounded off by the thirsty rock. Even the large communal areas where hundreds might gather for a meal or a prayer would have felt intimate and subdued. It was a world where privacy was granted not just by walls, but by the very air itself. As you listen to the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, imagine yourself standing in one of these ancient hallways. Feel the way the silence seems to press softly against your skin, like a heavy velvet blanket. There is no wind here, no distant hum of traffic, no hum of electronics. There is only the profound, grounded stillness of the earth. In this space, the weight of the world above is not a burden. It is a shield, filtering out the noise of the surface and leaving only a deep, resonant peace. Let your shoulders drop a little further into your mattress, mirroring the way the city itself rests within the mountain. Feel the stillness of the stone entering your own space, inviting you to let go of the day's lingering thoughts. This silence became the constant companion of the people who sought refuge here. It was a soundscape of safety where the absence of noise meant that all was well. For generations, the city breathed with the muffled sounds of human life, the soft scrape of sandals on stone, the low murmur of children learning their lessons, and the steady, quiet work of the kitchens. But as the centuries turned into millennia, the needs of the people began to shift. The threats that once drove them into the deep earth started to recede, and the vibrant, hidden world of Derinkuyu began to experience longer and more frequent stretches of total, undisturbed quiet. The city was transitioning from a bustling sanctuary into a silent monument, waiting for the moment when the last footstep would fade into the stone forever. This gradual transition marks the beginning of a new chapter in the city's story, one where the tunnels were no longer a necessity for survival, but a quiet memory of a time gone by. The silence that now fills these corridors didn't arrive all at once. It was a slow, gradual settling of dust over the centuries, a rhythmic ebb and flow of life that eventually drifted into a permanent hush. For nearly 3,000 years, Derinkuyu and its sister cities were not mere relics of the past. They were living, breathing extensions of the Anatolian landscape. Whenever the horizon darkened with the dust of approaching armies, or when the bitter winds of a particularly harsh winter swept across the plains, the people would retreat into the earth. The city was a recurring sanctuary, a place that waited patiently beneath the soil, ready to cradle its inhabitants whenever the world above became too uncertain. It is a remarkable thought that this subterranean world was still serving its original purpose well into the modern era. While many ancient wonders were lost to time or buried by the shifting sands of history, Derinkuyu remained a functional refuge for the local communities. As late as the early 20th century, the Cappadocian Greeks, descendants of the people who had carved and expanded these tunnels over generations, still used the upper levels of the city to escape periodic bouts of regional instability. They kept their oil lamps filled, their granaries stocked, and their rolling stone doors well maintained, continuing a tradition of subterranean survival that stretched back to the time of the Phrygians and the Hittites. The final chapter of the city's long, active life came to a quiet close in 1923. Following the Greco-Turkish War, a massive population exchange took place between Greece and Turkey. As the local Greek inhabitants were relocated, they carried with them the keys to their houses and the collective memory of the tunnels beneath their feet. When the last families gathered their belongings and climbed the stone stairs for the final time, they left behind a silence that has remained largely unbroken ever since. After 3 millennia of intermittent use, of children playing in the shadows, of bread baking in communal ovens, and of prayers whispered in the cool, dark chapels, the city finally fell into a deep, undisturbed sleep. Imagine the atmosphere in those first few years after the abandonment. The oil in the lamps eventually sputtered out, leaving the corridors in a darkness more profound than they had known for centuries. The air, once filled with the scent of wood smoke and livestock, slowly cleared, becoming crisp and neutral. The dust began to settle in thin, even layers over the stone benches and the circular millstones. Without the heat of human bodies and the flicker of hearths, the temperature stabilized into its eternal, cool equilibrium. The city became a time capsule, a masterwork of engineering and endurance that simply waited in the dark, its existence slowly fading from the memory of those who lived on the surface. Yet, even as the city was vacated, it did not reveal all its secrets. The people left, but the structures they built remained, stretching down into the depths of the earth, far beyond what we can see today. As the modern world moved on above, building roads and laying wires, the vast majority of Derinkuyu remained hidden, a labyrinth of stone that still guards the mysteries of its lowest reaches. This silence is not just an end, it is a veil, draped over the parts of the city that have yet to feel the touch of a flashlight or the gaze of an explorer. The story of what was left behind is only half of the tale. The other half lies in what remains undiscovered, tucked away in the unmapped darkness far below the 8th floor. As we stand in our minds at the threshold of the 8th level, the furthest point currently accessible to the public, it is humbling to realize that the stone beneath our feet is not solid, but likely honeycombed with even deeper secrets. While the paths we have explored so far feel vast and intricate, they represent only a fraction of the total structure. Historians and archaeologists believe that Derinkuyu may descend as far as 18 levels into the Anatolian plateau, reaching a total depth of approximately 85 meters. To put that in perspective, that is nearly the height of a 30-story building, carved entirely by hand into the heart of the earth. Yet, the most startling realization is how little of this subterranean world has actually been revealed to modern eyes. Current estimates suggest that only about 10 to 15% of the entire complex has been fully excavated and mapped. The vast majority of the city remains exactly as it was when the last inhabitants departed, filled with the soft silt of centuries, or perhaps sealed off by the very rolling stone doors designed to protect it. Take a slow, quiet breath and let your mind drift into that unmapped darkness. It is not a place of void or emptiness, but a place of profound potential. On those 10th, 12th, or 18th levels, there may be chambers that haven't felt the warmth of a lamp in 1,000 years. There may be more communal kitchens with soot still clinging to the ceilings, or perhaps more schools where the stone benches sit waiting for students who will never return. There is a certain peace in knowing that some things remain hidden, guarded by the weight and the silence of the earth. This unexcavated territory acts as a silent frontier. In a world where almost every corner of the surface has been photographed and charted, Derinkuyu offers a rare mystery, a physical connection to a past that hasn't been fully cataloged. The air down there is perfectly still, the temperature a constant, comforting cool. It is as if the earth is holding its breath, cradling the remains of this ancient civilization until the time is right for them to be found. The mystery of these lower levels reminds us that history is not just something found in books, but something we live on top of. Even as we sleep, these stone corridors exist in a state of eternal undisturbed rest. As we begin to move our focus from the mystery of what is hidden back toward the world of the living, we can appreciate the careful work that has gone into preserving what we can see. The journey from the deep, unmapped shadows leads us toward the modern efforts to protect this site, ensuring that the echoes of the past are not lost to time, but are instead kept safe for generations to come. The journey through the history of Derinkuyu brings us eventually to the present day, a time when the city is no longer a secret kept by the earth, but a treasure shared with the world. In 1963, a simple renovation in a modern home pulled back the veil, and by 1969, the city was officially opened to the public. Today, it stands as a monument to human ingenuity, recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. This designation ensures that the stone walls, the ventilation shafts, and the massive rolling doors will be protected for as long as the earth stands, preserving the story of those who carved their lives into the volcanic tuff. When you visit Derinkuyu today, you are permitted to descend through the upper 8 levels. As you step down the modern stairs, the air changes. It becomes still and cool, carrying that faint, earthy scent of ancient dust and weathered rock. The harsh sunlight of the Turkish plains fades away, replaced by a soft amber glow from low-wattage lamps tucked into the niches where oil once burned. It is a slow, meditative descent. With every step downward, the sounds of the modern world, the wind, the distant hum of traffic, the calls of birds, begin to swallow themselves until there is nothing left but the sound of your own heartbeat and the rhythmic hush of your breath. Take a moment now to imagine that walk. You are moving slowly, your hand brushing against the pale, smooth surface of the volcanic tuff. The stone feels solid and ancient, yet strangely soft to the touch. There is no rush here. The city has waited thousands of years. It can wait a few more minutes for you to find your rhythm. With every breath you take, feel the weight of the day lifting, replaced by the heavy, comforting presence of the rock around you. You are shielded here. You are in a place that was designed, above all else, to be a sanctuary. It is interesting to reflect on how the why of this place has shifted over the millennia. In the beginning, these tunnels were born from a need for safety, a response to the uncertainties of the surface world. They were built to keep people out, to hide a civilization from the eyes of those who might do them harm. But today, the purpose of Derinkuyu is exactly the opposite. It exists now to invite people in. It is no longer a place of hiding, but a place of revelation. The paradox of the city, the idea of living in the dark to find safety, has transformed into a lens of profound peace. When we look at these corridors now, we don't see the terror of the ancient world. We see the incredible capacity of the human spirit to create beauty and order in the face of challenge. We see a communal effort that spanned centuries, a quiet, steady labor that resulted in a masterpiece of architecture. The city has become a bridge between the ancient past and our modern understanding of what it means to survive and thrive. As we walk through these levels, guided by the soft light of the present, we are not just looking at old caves. We are looking at the enduring strength of our own history, held safely in the palm of the earth. This sense of peace, of being cradled by the very ground we walk upon, offers a new way to look at the wisdom of those ancient builders. The wisdom of those ancient builders is more than just a relic of history. It is a living lesson that continues to whisper to us today. We often think of the past as something we have outgrown, but in the cool, silent corridors of Derinkuyu, modern science is finding answers to some of our most pressing future challenges. Architects and engineers from around the globe now travel to this subterranean world not merely to wonder at its age, but to study its design. They look at how these ancient people managed to create a perfectly regulated environment without a single watt of electricity or a complex machine. This is the beauty of passive cooling. In our modern world, we use vast amounts of energy to keep our homes cool in the summer and warm in the winter, fighting against the natural shifts of the atmosphere. But here, deep within the Anatolian tuff, the temperature remains a steady, unwavering 13 to 15 degrees Celsius, regardless of whether the sun above is scorching the plains or the winter winds are bringing snow. Modern, sustainable architecture is now looking back at these techniques, exploring how we might use the thermal mass of the earth to create homes that are naturally tempered. By building into the ground or using earth-sheltered designs, we can find a stability that the open air simply cannot provide. It is a profound reframing of what we once called the paradox of the city. We used to think of these tunnels as a place born of terror, a desperate retreat into the dark to escape the violence of the surface. But when we look through the eyes of sustainability, we see something else entirely. We see a blueprint for a more stable future. The ancient terror has been transformed into a gift of knowledge. Those who dug these tunnels weren't just hiding. They were discovering how to live in harmony with the geological reality of their home. They found that the earth could be a provider of breath through its deep ventilation shafts and a provider of comfort through its thick insulating walls. As we begin to wind down our narrative journey through these depths, let that thought settle over you like a soft blanket. The weight of the stone above is not a burden. It is a shield. It is a constant, reliable presence that has protected life for thousands of years. The ingenuity of the human spirit, when faced with the unknown, did not just find a way to survive. It found a way to thrive in the silence. Take a slow, deep breath. feeling the coolness of the air in your own space, much like the air that has circulated through these tunnels for centuries. There is a great peace in knowing that the solutions to our future are often held safely in the hands of our past. The earth is steady, the rock is firm, and the lessons of Derinkuyu remind us that even in the deepest dark, there is a logic and a beauty that can guide us toward the light. We are learning to trust the ground beneath us, to see it not as a place of hiding, but as a source of enduring wisdom. The city is resting now, as it has for so long, and as we prepare to leave its silent corridors, we carry that sense of stability with us, letting it ground our thoughts and quiet our minds. As we begin to ascend from the deep heart of the rock, imagine yourself moving slowly upward through the narrow, spiraling passages that lead back to the world of light. With every step, the air begins to change. It loses that cool, still quality of the deep earth and starts to carry the subtle, fresh scents of the surface, the faint aroma of wild thyme, the dry fragrance of the plateau, and the crispness of the evening breeze. We are leaving the heavy, protective silence of the tunnels behind, moving toward a different kind of quiet. Emerging from the hidden entrance, the world suddenly opens up. After the closed, sheltering walls of Derinkuyu, the vastness of the Anatolian night sky feels like a deep, cooling breath for the soul. Above the jagged, ghostly silhouettes of the fairy chimneys, the sky is a deep, velvety indigo, salted with the light of 1,000 distant suns. In this high, dry region, the stars do not just twinkle, they burn with a steady, ancient clarity. The Milky Way stretches across the horizon like a river of silver dust, a celestial mirror to the hidden passages we have just traversed. Take a moment to feel the profound contrast. Below you, the earth is solid, ancient, and heavy, a fortress of stone that has stood unmoved for millennia. Above you, the universe is infinite and open, a space of pure light and shadow. You are standing at the meeting point of these two worlds, grounded by the steady strength of the rock beneath your feet, yet lightened by the immense beauty of the stars. Let any remaining tension leave your body as you visualize this transition. Feel the lightness in your limbs, as if the weight of the day is evaporating into the cool night air, leaving you buoyant and calm. This landscape, known as Cappadocia, is a masterpiece of time and elements. While the cities below were carved by human hands, the world above was sculpted by the patient hands of nature. Millions of years ago, the eruptions of three great volcanoes, Mount Erciyes, Hazanda, and Gulida, covered this entire region in thick layers of ash and lava. Over eons, the soft volcanic tuff was worn away by the persistent rhythm of wind and rain, leaving behind the tall, slender towers and cone-shaped hills we see today. It is a place where the very ground seems to reach for the sky, and the sky seems to rest gently upon the earth. As you settle deeper into your pillows, imagine the stillness of this plateau. There is no sound here, but the softest sigh of the wind moving through the valleys. The fairy chimneys stand like silent sentinels in the moonlight, their pale stone glowing with a soft, ethereal light. This is a land of dreams where the boundaries between history and myth, between the earth and the heavens, seem to blur. Allow yourself to drift into that same space of blurred boundaries where the weight of the world fades away and only the peaceful rhythm of the night remains. The air is light, the stars are watching, and the earth is holding you in a perfect, quiet balance. You are safe, you are steady, and you are ready to let the world of the surface fade into the world of sleep. As the cool night air of the Anatolian plateau settles around you, and the stars continue their slow, silent dance overhead, let your mind rest one last time on the people who made this hidden world possible. We have walked through their kitchens, breathed the air they channeled from the surface, and felt the smooth curve of the walls they shaped with such care. Yet, in all the 18 levels of Derinkuyu, through all the miles of tunnels and the thousands of rooms, there is a striking, beautiful absence. There are no inscriptions boasting of a great king's conquest. There are no tablets listing the names of the architects or the master masons who designed the ventilation shafts or the rolling stone doors. History is often a record of names and dates, of individuals who sought to carve their identities into the memory of the world. But Derinkuyu is different. It is a masterpiece of the anonymous. It is a collective human achievement, a monument built not for glory, but for the most fundamental of human needs: safety, community, and survival. Think of the thousands of hands that held the chisels. Think of the generations of families who lived, worked, and dreamed within these walls. Each stroke of the hammer against the soft volcanic tuff was a quiet act of devotion to the future. They worked in the dim glow of linseed oil lamps, their movements rhythmic and steady, much like the slow, deep rise and fall of your breath right now. They were mothers and fathers, children and elders, all contributing to a sanctuary that would outlive them by thousands of years. Their names have been returned to the earth, but their legacy remains in the very bones of the mountain. There is a profound peace in this anonymity. It reminds us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, a long, unbroken chain of human resilience and care. These builders didn't need their names on the walls because their work was the reward. The safety of their neighbors, the cool sleep of their children, the preservation of their culture, these were the things that mattered. As you prepare to drift into your own deep sleep, let that thought bring you a sense of quiet belonging. You are supported by the steady, unseen work of those who came before, just as you are supported now by the heavy, comforting stillness of the night. The chisels have long since fallen silent. The dust has settled, the lamps have flickered out, leaving the city in a state of perfect, undisturbed rest. In this silence, there is no pressure to achieve, no need to be known, no requirement to do anything but exist in this moment of calm. Like the anonymous builders of the past, you can now let go of the day's identities and titles. You can simply be a part of the quiet world, resting in the safety of the dark, cocooned by the weight of the earth and the vastness of the sky. The story of Derinkuyu is not just a story of stone and shadow. It is a story of the quiet strength we all carry within us, the ability to build a place of peace, even in the heart of the unknown. As the narrative of the city begins to fade, let your focus soften even further. The history is written. The tunnels are still, and the earth is waiting to hold your dreams. You are entering a space of total stillness, where the only sound is the gentle echo of the past, whispering a promise of rest. Let the weight of the stone and the light of the stars guide you into the final, deepest part of your journey. And so, we leave the tunnels behind, letting the darkness of the earth reclaim its ancient silence. Imagine the city of Derinkuyu as it exists in this very second, hundreds of feet beneath the Turkish soil. There is no wind there. There is no ticking clock. There is only the cool, dense breath of the stone. The air is perfectly still, holding the memory of 20,000 souls in a state of perpetual grace. The great rolling stone doors remain in their grooves, no longer needed for protection, but standing as silent sentinels of a peace that has finally been won. The ventilation shafts, those long lungs of the earth, draw in the cool night air from the surface, carrying the faint scent of wild thyme and distant rain down into the deepest, darkest galleries. As you lie here, feel the parallels between that subterranean sanctuary and your own room. You are tucked away, shielded from the noise of the busy world. The walls around you are your own fortress of quiet. Just as the city of Derinkuyu has remained unchanged through empires, wars, and the turning of centuries, the earth beneath you is constant and unwavering. It is a foundation that never moves, a steady presence that catches you every time you let go. You can trust the floor, the bed, and the very ground to hold you without effort. Your breath is the only sound in your world now, a soft, rhythmic tide. With every exhale, imagine you are descending just a little further into the soft, velvet dark. Not a darkness of fear, but a darkness of restoration. It is the same darkness that protected the scholars in their stone library and the families in their communal hearths. It is a blanket of safety that has covered the world since the beginning of time. It is the quiet space where the earth restores itself and where you too are allowed to be restored. The history of the world is long and winding, but tonight your story is simply one of rest. The mysteries of the Anatolian plains can wait for the morning sun. The secrets of the deep wells and the hidden passages are tucked away, safe in the archives of the earth. You have learned all you need to know. Your mind has traveled through time and stone, through geology and human genius, and now it is time for the journey to end at the threshold of sleep. Let your thoughts become like the dust in those ancient hallways, settling slowly, gently, until they are part of the floor. There is nothing left to solve. There is nothing left to remember. There is only the heavy, comfortable weight of your body and the infinite softness of the night. The earth is steady. The night is long. You're exactly where you need to be. Sleep now, held by the strength of the mountains and the silence of the stars. May your dreams be as vast as the universe and as peaceful as the heart of the stone. Good night. Good night. Good night.